It took me 1 week to prepare the perfect family dinner, only for the main event to turn into a trial I never announced. I handed my husband the envelope for the romantic trip I secretly booked for us. Then I placed another envelope right next to it, the one bearing another woman's name. His face went pale in front of his parents. The only question left hanging over the table was whether I would destroy him right there or wait until the airport. My name is Ivy Gonzalez, and the scent of rosemary and thyme is what I remember most about the beginning of the end. It clung to my hands, a sticky, fragrant reminder of the hours I had spent rubbing it into the skin of a 20-pound turkey. Our dining room in Mapleford was immaculate. I had spent 2 days polishing the silver, the heavy, ornate set that had been in Connor's family for 3 generations and was, as his mother Evelyn often reminded me, meant for special occasions. Tonight was, apparently, such an occasion. Evelyn and Charles Cole, my parents-in-law, were seated at the head and foot of the table, respectively. Charles, a man who believed his opinions were facts, was already holding court about some local zoning issue. Evelyn, his wife, watched him with a practiced, placid smile, her pearls glowing against her cashmere sweater set. She was the gatekeeper of the Cole legacy, and after 5 years of marriage, I was still waiting outside the gate. My husband, Connor, sat to my right, looking every bit the golden sun. His hair was perfectly styled, his smile easy and confident. He was the star salesman at Colton Dynamics, the family's namesake firm, and everyone at this table, including him, believed he was destined for greatness. To my left was Tessa, Connor's younger sister. Her eyes, unlike her mother's, were never placid. They were sharp, constantly scanning, cataloging, and judging. She held her wineglass by the bowl, not the stem. A small act of rebellion I was sure was designed to annoy Evelyn. Next to her was Aunt Judith, a distant cousin of Charles, whose entire social life seemed to consist of attending dinners like this and gathering information. She was, in short, a professional gossip. This was my stage. The new linen tablecloth, a soft, expensive cream, was uncreased. The centerpiece I had made myself from dried hydrangeas and eucalyptus sprigs looked like it belonged in a magazine. The roast turkey was a burnished gold. The sweet potato casserole, topped with perfectly toasted pecans, steamed gently. The pumpkin pie, made from scratch, rested on the sideboard, its crust a delicate, flaky work of art. I had done all of this, as I had done for 5 years, to prove that I was worthy of their name, worthy of their son, worthy of a seat at their table. I, Ivy Gonzalez, the content manager from Alder Finch Media Works, was still auditioning for the role of Mrs. Connor Cole, a role they had always seemed to believe I had stumbled into by accident. Ivy. "Darling, the bird is just magnificent," Evelyn said, her voice smooth as the gravy in the boat. It was a compliment, but it felt like a performance review. I passed. "It's my pleasure." "Evelyn," I said, my own voice just as smooth. Tessa took a sip of her wine. Her eyes narrowed in amusement. "Well, you certainly went all out." "Ivy, what's the big announcement? You finally knocked up." The clinking of silverware stopped. Charles cleared his throat. "Tessa, honestly," Evelyn murmured, a faint pink rising on her neck. "What we're all thinking it," Tessa said, shrugging. "It's been 5 years. The clock is ticking." Connor laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh he used when he was uncomfortable, the one that threw someone else to the wolves to save himself. He reached over and patted my hand, a gesture that looked affectionate but felt dismissive. "We're taking our time. Tess, right. Ivy." Before I could answer, he continued, turning his smile on his sister. "Besides, maybe Ivy is just trying to butter me up. She knows I'm a flight risk." The table laughed, a polite, strained, upper-middle-class titter that echoed off the high ceilings. Charles chuckled. "That's my boy." Evelyn smiled, a genuine smile this time, at her son's wit, a flight risk. The words hung in the air, mixing with the steam from the casserole. He said it as a joke. His family took it as a joke, but the joke was on me, and I was the only one who wasn't laughing. This was the knife. The first, casual, public cut. He didn't defend me. He didn't correct his sister. He joined her, adding a jab of his own, reinforcing the family narrative I was the one who was lucky to be there, the one who should be afraid of losing him. I felt a sudden, cold clarity. The heat from the oven, the ache in my feet from standing all day, the anxiety about the pie crust, it all evaporated. I was left with a pure, diamond-hard certainty. I smiled. A real smile this time, not the one I practiced for family dinners. "You're right, Connor," I said, my voice quiet but cutting through the residual laughter. "It is a special occasion, and I do have an announcement." I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping softly on the polished hardwood floor. I stood up. Everyone looked at me, surprised. I was the hostess, the server, the audience. I was not supposed to be the one holding the spotlight. "I'll be right back," I said. I walked out of the dining room, down the hall, and into our bedroom. The air was cooler here. I didn't turn on the light. I walked to my jewelry box on the dresser, the one Connor had given me for our first anniversary. I opened the bottom drawer, the velvet-lined one where I kept things I didn't want to see every day. I took out 2 envelopes. The first was heavy, made of thick cream cardstock, tied with a dark green satin ribbon. It smelled faintly of my perfume. The second was a standard, business-sized envelope, white, thin, crisp. It was sealed. It felt cold to the touch. I walked back to the dining room. All eyes were on me. The chatter had died. Aunt Judith looked like she was about to vibrate out of her chair with anticipation. I walked to Connor's side. I placed the cream-colored envelope, the one with the ribbon, on the table in front of his plate. "This is for us," I said, my voice warm again, playing the part. "For our 5-year anniversary." "Oh," Ivy Evelyn cooed, her hand flying to her chest. "You are just the sweetest thing. Go on, son, open it," Charles boomed. Connor smiled, the easy, confident smile back in place. He thought he knew what this was. He thought this was me, the doting wife, proving my devotion again. He picked up the envelope. He untied the ribbon. He opened the flap. He pulled out the custom-printed itinerary from Skynest Travel. I watched his face. I had memorized every line of it, every expression, and I watched as a new one unfolded. He read the destination, Willow Key Resort. He read the details, 4 days and 3 nights, oceanfront king suite, private dinner on the beach, and then he read the dates. I saw the exact moment. His eyes scanned the flight confirmation, round trip, 2 seats, his name and mine, and the departure date, the exact same day, the exact same weekend, that he had told me, and everyone else at this table, that he had to fly to Dallas for a sales summit. His face did not go red. It went white, a sickly, papery white. The smile didn't fade. It froze, a grotesque mask that no longer reached his eyes. He looked up at me, his gaze frantic, confused. "Ivy," he started, his voice a low rasp. "I told you, I have the Dallas conference." "I know," I said, and my voice was no longer warm. It was as cold as the envelope I still held in my left hand. I placed the second envelope on the table, the thin, white, business-sized one. I slid it across the polished wood until it tapped against the fine china of his dinner plate. "But since you already have tickets," I said, my voice clear and carrying to every corner of the silent room, "you should open this one, too." The air in the room didn't just get quiet. It ceased to exist. It was a vacuum. Evelyn's hand was still at her chest, but her painted smile was gone, replaced by a look of sharp confusion. Charles had stopped mid-sip of his wine, the glass halfway to his mouth. Tessa's jaw had literally dropped open. Connor stared at the white envelope as if it were a snake. He looked at me again, and this time, the confusion was gone. It was replaced by pure, undiluted panic. He knew. He knew that I knew. He didn't move. His hands were frozen on the table. "Go on, Connor," I urged gently. "Everyone is waiting." From this point on, This is the truth of how a wife learned that only public humiliation will make them stop laughing. I am 34 years old. I am not, by any definition, a dependent woman. I am a content manager at Alder Finch Media Works, a marketing firm that respects my work and pays me well for it. I have my own savings, my own retirement account, and a professional reputation I built from nothing. I did not need to marry Connor Cole for his money, his name, or his family's standing in the pleasant, suffocating suburbs of Mapleford. I married him because I loved him. That, I've learned, is not a currency the Coles trade in. In their world, there is only one star, one sun around which all other planets must dutifully orbit Connor. He is the golden boy, the future of Colton Dynamics, the sales prodigy who, according to his father, Charles, could sell a furnace in hell. From the day he was born, he was anointed. He was not just a son, he was the heir. And the women in his life were meant to be accessories to that ascent. His mother, Evelyn, polished his trophies. His sister, Tessa, sharpened his wit by constantly challenging it. And I, his wife, was expected to provide the soft, stable, perfectly decorated home base from which he could launch his next success. They were never cruel to me, not directly. Cruelty is for the lower classes. The Coles practiced a more refined art, the art of polite, perpetual exclusion. It was in the way Evelyn would compliment my dress. What a lovely fabric. Ivy. So vibrant, with a tiny pause that implied it was also loud and cheap. It was in the way Charles would ask about my job at that website thing you do, as if my career was a quaint hobby. It was in the way the entire family spoke in a shorthand of shared memories and inside jokes, and would offer a thin, patient smile when I, the outsider, inevitably asked for an explanation. Oh, it's just a silly old story. Darling, you wouldn't get it. For 5 years. I tried. God, how I tried. I learned to make Charles's favorite pecan pie, a ridiculously complicated recipe that took 2 days, just to watch him nod and say, almost as good as my mother's. I hosted every Thanksgiving, brining the turkey for 48 hours, creating name cards with calligraphy, and coordinating napkin rings, all to prove I was not the girl Connor married in a hurry. That was the unspoken narrative. Connor, the golden boy, had been a little too impulsive. He had married me after a whirlwind romance, and the family had been supportive, which is Cole speak for horrified, but too well-bred to show it. My entire marriage had been a long, grueling audition to prove I was, in fact, Cole-worthy. The deepest crack in our foundation wasn't his family's judgment, it was Connor's response to it. He never defended me, not once. I remember one Christmas, 2, maybe 3 years ago. Tessa, in that acidic way of hers, remarked on a new coat I had bought. Wow, Ivy, that's bold. I guess Alder Finch must be paying you a lot to afford that. The implication was clear I was flashy, a show-off, not like their family, who wore their wealth with the quiet confidence of old money. I looked at Connor, waiting. I was his wife. This was his sister. This was his moment to say, "That's enough, Tess," or, "I love it. She looks amazing." He just laughed, that easy, frictionless laugh. He draped an arm over my shoulder. "You know Ivy," he said to his sister. "She's got to keep her brand strong." He didn't defend me. He defended his family from my reaction. He reframed the insult as a joke, smoothing over the conflict, leaving me standing there in my bold coat, feeling like a fool. He was not my partner. He was their ambassador. He was the family's peacekeeper, and my feelings were the price of that peace. We didn't have children. We had talked about it, agreed to wait a year or two. We were building our foundation, he'd said. But the truth was, the lack of a child, a Cole heir, only amplified my probationary status. I didn't have the biological trump card. I wasn't the mother of his son. I was just Ivy, the woman who was still trying. My performance as a homemaker, a hostess, a doting wife, was the only thing I had. So I doubled down. I thought, if I can't win them over as a family, I will strengthen my bond with him. I would create us, a fortress of shared memories so strong his family couldn't breach it. That's where the trip came from. I saved for 6 months, pulling from my own accounts. A surprise, a romantic reconnect. The travel package at Willow Key Resort had called it. I imagined his face, the genuine surprise, the gratitude. I imagined us on a beach, thousands of miles away from Evelyn's judging eyes and Tessa's sharp tongue. I thought a trip could fix what 5 years of dinners had failed to. It was a desperate, naive idea. The signs were there, of course. They always are. In retrospect, the late nights he blamed on closing a deal, the new, sudden weekend seminars that were mandatory, just last month, one in Chicago, 2 weeks before that, one in Atlanta. I believed him. I packed his suitcase. I believed him because the alternative was unthinkable. I believed him because I was so busy trying to earn my place in his family. I never stopped to consider that he had already given me a rank. And it was not first. I wasn't his partner. I wasn't his equal. I was the emotional caretaker, the person expected to absorb the family's slights and his indifference, all while keeping the turkey from drying out. The woman who set that table tonight, the woman who polished the silver and baked the perfect pie, was a woman trying to hold on. But the woman who walked into that bedroom and retrieved 2 envelopes, she was someone else. She was a woman who had finally realized that the game was rigged, that she had been devalued for years. And that kind of realization doesn't lead to sadness, it leads to fury. This wasn't an impulse, it was a conclusion, a reckoning that had been 5 years in the making. The love didn't die in a single, dramatic explosion. It died on a Tuesday morning, at 10:15 a.m., under the fluorescent hum of my home office lamp. I was working remotely, logged into a video call for Alder Finch MediaWorks, half listening to a debate about new SEO keywords. Connor had left early, and our shared laptop, a sleek silver model we'd bought last Christmas, was sitting open on the corner of his side of the desk. We used it for household things, paying bills, booking travel, managing the shared calendar that governed our busy lives. A notification banner slid into view in the upper right corner of the screen. A new email. It wasn't the sender that caught my eye, but the subject line, from Skynest Travel. Subject: your flight confirmation to Cabo. I blinked. Cabo. We weren't going to Cabo. My thumb was still hovering over the mute button on my work call, the preview text, the small snippet of the email designed to entice you to open it. Read, confirmation for Connor Cole plus Sabrina Hale. Sabrina Hale. The name was a small, smooth stone dropped into the placid water of my morning. It didn't make a splash. It just sank, sending out slow, concentric ripples of unease. I told my team I had a network issue and muted myself. My heart had started a new, unpleasant rhythm against my ribs. It's a mistake. It has to be spam. Someone booked the wrong email. I clicked the trackpad. The email opened. It was not a mistake. It was a full itinerary from Skynest Travel. 2 round-trip tickets from Phoenix to Cabo Real Marina, Mexico. My eyes scanned the details, hungry and horrified. Departure date next Friday, November 14th. Return date Monday, November 17th. The date slammed into me, knocking the air from my lungs. November 14th. The exact day Connor was scheduled to leave for his Dallas Sales Summit. The trip he had been so apologetic about. The one that couldn't be moved, and was forcing us to celebrate our anniversary a week early. The name on the second ticket was not Ivy Gonzalez. It was clear as day. Sabrina Hale. My first thought was absurd. He's taking a colleague to Dallas, and they are connecting through Cabo. It made no sense. My brain was scrambling, trying to build a bridge of logic over the chasm that had just opened at my feet. I closed the email. I opened our shared digital calendar. There it was, blocked out in serious corporate blue Dallas Sales Summit all weekend. I clicked on the event. He had attached a file, a PowerPoint presentation labeled Dallas Sales Deck, PPEX. I downloaded it. My hands were shaking, just slightly. It opened. The file was a template, A generic, blank template from the Colton Dynamics server. It had a title slide, Dallas Sales Summit, and a second slide, Insert Q4 projections here. The rest of the 12 slides were blank. Just white space waiting for information that had never been added. It was a digital prop, a lie constructed in Microsoft Office. A cold, acidic bile rose in my throat. I was no longer a confused wife. I was an investigator. I minimized the blank presentation. I opened our joint bank account app. My fingers flew over the keypad, my muscle memory for our finances taking over where my emotional brain had stalled. I scrolled through the recent transactions, past the grocery trips, the mortgage payment, the utility bills, and there it was, 3 days ago, a charge for $458. The merchant, Mar Azul Suites and Spa. I Googled it. Mar Azul Suites and Spa, Cabo Real Marina. The homepage loaded, showing a gleaming infinity pool overlooking a turquoise ocean. A banner ad scrolled across the top. Book your romantic getaway today. $458, a deposit, for the exact weekend he was supposed to be in Dallas. Sabrina Hale. I closed my eyes and pictured the name. Where did I know it from? Then it came to me. A company picnic, too, maybe 3 months ago. Connor, standing by the grill, laughing. A new woman from the major accounts team was standing next to him. Blonde, younger than me, probably in her late 20s. She was wearing a red dress that was entirely inappropriate for a company picnic, and she had a laugh that was loud and breathy. I remembered her because she had touched him, not an accidental brush. She had put her hand on his forearm as she laughed, a deliberate, proprietary gesture. I had watched her, and Connor had just let her. He had smiled down at her, the golden boy, soaking in the admiration. At the time, I had dismissed it. I was the confident, 34-year-old wife. She was the intern, the new girl. I had felt a brief, ugly flicker of annoyance and then let it go. Now, that flicker was a wildfire. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over Connor's contact. What do I say? How do you ask this? My brain was a news ticker of accusations, but my voice needed to be calm. I needed one more piece. I needed the final, damning lie, delivered by him. I pressed the call button. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, Ivy, what's up? I'm just grabbing coffee, he said. His voice was bright, normal. The sound of it made me sick. Hey, I said, my voice a marvel of casualness. I was just finalizing my work schedule for next week, and it got me thinking about your Dallas trip. Yeah, what about it? No hesitation. I just wanted to double-check who was going with you. Was it just the sales team I was thinking of sending a small gift basket to the hotel for you and your boss, just as a good luck on the summit thing? The lie came so easily it terrified me. I heard him laugh. A short, easy sound. Babe, that's sweet. But you don't have to do that. It's really just me and a few of the guys from the sales floor. We'll be in meetings from sunup to sundown. Not exactly a party. Just me and a few of the guys. The words echoed in the silent room. The lie was so clean, so effortless. He didn't stumble. He didn't pause. He delivered it with the same casual confidence he used to sell industrial machinery. Oh, okay, I said. Well, just wanted to check. Good luck with your coffee. Love you. Love you too, babe. See you tonight. He hung up. I sat there, the phone heavy in my hand. The love didn't just die. It was assassinated. It was murdered in cold blood on a Tuesday morning, and the killer's voice was still echoing in my ear. There would be no hysterical phone calls, no tearful confrontations, no pleading. How could you? I was past that. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan, a calculated, insulting, arrogant plan. He had built a fake presentation. He had booked a romantic hotel. He had lied to my face, smoothly and without remorse. He didn't just disrespect our marriage. He disrespected my intelligence. He assumed I was the stupid, doting wife, the one who baked pies and polished silver, the one who would be too busy proving my worth to ever question his. I turned back to the laptop. My movements were precise now. I opened the email from Skynest Travel. I opened the bank statement showing the charge from Mar Azul Suites. I clicked File, then Download as PDF. I saved both to the desktop. I walked to our printer. I loaded it with a fresh, crisp sheet of white paper. I printed the email confirmation first. The names. Connor Cole plus Sabrina Hale looked even more obscene in black ink. I printed the bank statement. I found a plain white business envelope in the desk drawer. I folded the papers, the sharp creases aligning perfectly. I slid them inside. This was not a love letter. It was a receipt. It was the bill for 5 years of my life, the invoice for every dinner I had cooked, every family insult I had swallowed, every time I had put his comfort before my own. I sealed the envelope. This, I knew, was the only gift he truly deserved, and I would give it to him, not in the privacy of our home, where he could lie and charm and twist his way out of it. I would give it to him in public, in front of the people whose opinions he valued more than mine. I would give it to him in front of his mother. I put the white envelope in my jewelry box, in the drawer where I kept the things I didn't want to see. The transformation was complete. The warm, loving wife who had woken up this morning was gone. In her place was a woman with a printer, a plan, and a profound, clarifying sense of rage. The white envelope sat in my jewelry box for 2 days. It was a bomb, and I was a woman learning the art of demolition. A victim reacts, a victim cries. I was not a victim, I was an architect. My first call was to Skynest Travel. I rehearsed the script twice, lowering my voice, adding a note of harried efficiency. I dialed their customer service line, a cup of black coffee steaming on my desk. Skynest Travel, this is Brenda. How can I help you? The voice was perky, over-caffeinated. Hello, Brenda, I said, my tone brisk and friendly. I'm calling about a booking for my husband, Connor Cole. My name is Ivy Gonzalez. I am in a terrible rush. Our accountant is screaming at me for receipts, and I seem to have misplaced the final invoice for his upcoming trip. I just need a detailed receipt for our tax files. Of course, ma'am. I can help with that. Do you have the confirmation code? I do, I said, reading the string of letters and numbers from the PDF on my screen. It's KJ751BN. I heard the clacking of her keyboard. Okay, I see it right here. Mr. Connor Cole, departing November 14th. Just so I can verify, you are Ivy Gonzalez. You're the primary cardholder on the account used to book this. A new ice-cold thrill ran up my spine. He had used our joint account, not just the bank account for the hotel, but our shared rewards credit card, the one where I was the primary account holder, the one I paid the bills for, the one I managed. He was not just arrogant, he was lazy. He was so confident in my blindness that he didn't even bother to cover his tracks with his own money. Yes, that's correct, I said, my voice dangerously sweet. Ivy Gonzalez, I'm the primary on that card. I just need the full receipt, the one that shows all the details for the tax write-off. No problem at all, Ms. Gonzalez. I'm emailing the full itemized itinerary to the email on file right now. It includes both passenger names, the hotel flight package details, and the full payment breakdown. Both passenger names, I asked, feigning confusion. Oh, I thought he was just booking for himself. Brenda's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Oh, no. It looks like he's treating someone. The second passenger is a Ms. Sabrina Hale, and I see a note here from the booking agent. Let's see. Requesting king bed, ocean view, notes arriving together. How sweet is that? He even booked the romantic getaway flight package. How sweet, I said, my voice wooden. Thank you. Brenda, you've been a huge help. I hung up. The email arrived a second later. Romantic getaway. Arriving together. He wasn't just taking a colleague. He was taking his mistress on a vacation he'd paid for with my credit score. My next call was to the Mar Azul Suites in Cabo. I put on a different voice, this one more relaxed, happier. Hi there, I said when the concierge answered. I'm calling about a reservation under Connor Cole for next weekend. I'm his assistant, Ivy, and I'm trying to finalize his schedule. I see he's booked, but I wanted to see if there was a spa package I could add on as a surprise. Ah, si, Señorita Ivy. The man's voice was smooth. Mr. Cole already has a booking at our spa. He has reserved the Couples Serenity package for Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. It includes the private hydrotherapy pool, a 90-minute side-by-side massage, and champagne with chocolate-covered strawberries. It is very romantic. It certainly sounds like it, I said. Thank you so much. No need to add anything then. Please don't mention I called. I don't want to ruin his preparations. I hung up the phone. I now had confirmation of a flight, a romantic hotel package, and a couples massage, all booked for my husband and his blonde colleague, on my credit card. I was no longer an architect, I was a prosecutor, and I had just built an airtight case. That evening, I didn't go home. I went to a wine bar in the city and met my best friend, Lila Moore. Lila was 2 years younger than me, sharper, and had just made junior partner at her law firm. She listened to the entire story, her face impassive, as she sipped her Sauvignon Blanc. When I finished, she didn't offer condolences. She didn't say, "I'm so sorry." She just nodded, her legal mind processing the facts. "Okay," she said. "So he's an idiot, and he's a cheater. What's your desired outcome?" "Ivy." "I want to expose him," I said. "In court? In a divorce filing?" "No," I said, swirling my own glass. "In person, in front of his family. I want to see his face when his mother finds out." Lila's mouth quirked into a small, impressed smile. "Public humiliation. Vicious. I like it. But you have to be careful. Ivy, he could try to flip this. Say you're harassing him, creating a hostile environment. How can it be harassment if it's the truth?" "The truth is just a story. The person who tells it best wins," Lila said. "My advice, don't be the accuser. Be the facilitator. Don't you say a word. You have the evidence. You're not making anything up. So, just let him read it, in front of witnesses. Let him be the one to explain a romantic getaway with Sabrina Hale to his own mother. The moment you start yelling, you lose. The person who stays calm holds all the power." I smiled. "Let him read it in front of witnesses." "Exactly," Lila said, raising her glass. "Now, let's talk about asset separation." I left the bar with a cold, clear purpose. I went to a 24-hour print shop. I printed 3 complete sets of the evidence, the Skynest travel itinerary with both names, the email from Brenda confirming I was the primary cardholder, the Mar Azul Suites website homepage, and the bank statement showing the spa deposit. 1 set went into the white envelope in my jewelry box. 1 set went into a new safe deposit box I opened at a bank branch 2 towns over, under my name only. The 3rd set I kept in my briefcase, hidden in a file labeled Alder Finch Q4 Projections. The next few days were a masterclass in compartmentalization. I went to work, I led my meetings, I smiled, I came home. And all the while, Connor was a phantom of affection. He sent me texts, "Thinking of you, babe. Can't wait for our early anniversary dinner. You're the best, Ivy." Each message was a new layer of insult. Each babe was a small twist of the knife. He was so comfortable in his lies, so certain of my devotion, that he was already pre-thanking me for the alibi I was providing. My hard work, my desire to please, my perfect dinners, these weren't qualities he cherished. They were flaws he exploited. My investigation didn't stop. I dug deeper into our joint bank statements from the past 6 months, and I found it. Small charges, quickly refunded, a hotel booking in Napa for a weekend 2 months ago, canceled just 3 days before, a reservation for 2 at a high-end restaurant near a seminar in Atlanta, also canceled. This wasn't his first attempt, it was just the first one he was managing to pull off. He and Sabrina had been planning this, trying and failing, for months. This Cabo trip was their grand finale. I researched Sabrina Hale. I found her social media, which was predictably polished. Single, 31. She worked in major accounts at Colton Dynamics, a position she'd only had for 6 months. She was ambitious, pretty in a generic, blonde way, and exactly the kind of go-getter Evelyn Cole would have described as a sharp girl. I felt a sick, secondary wave of humiliation. He wasn't just replacing me, he was replacing me with the kind of woman his family had always wanted him to be with. That was when the final piece of the plan clicked into place. Catching him wasn't enough. Making him confess wasn't enough. He had to be exposed, not just in front of his family, but in a way that dismantled the very image they worshipped. He had to be seen, by them, as a fool, as a liar, as a man who was not golden, but cheap. I wouldn't just be catching him, I would be setting the stage, and I would do it using the very tools he thought he was using against me. I logged onto the Harborline Travel Loft website, a competitor to Skynest. I started planning my own trip, a surprise trip, just for us. And I would set the departure date for November 14th. I knew what I was doing. That is a sentence I had not been able to say with certainty for 5 years. But as I walked out of the Harborline Travel Loft, the bell tinkling softly on the glass door, I knew exactly what I was doing. I hadn't gone back to Skynest, the airline of his betrayal. That was his stage. I needed my own. The Harborline office was downtown, all cool blues and brushed steel, a place that felt professional, expensive, and anonymous. The travel agent, a kind-eyed woman with a name tag that read, Maria, smiled warmly. A surprise trip. How wonderful. It's so rare to see this much planning for a surprise. Where are we sending you? Willow Key Resort, I said. My voice was steady, even pleasant. Oh, a fantastic choice, she said. The Reconnect packages there are very popular, and what dates were we looking for? Departing November 14th, I said, the date rolling off my tongue smoothly. Returning November 17th, 4 days, 3 nights, Maria's fingers tapped on her keyboard. Oh, that's next weekend spontaneous. I love it. She looked up. And what kind of package? It's our... Oh, it looks like it's your anniversary. Based on the file? It is, I said, feigning a small, shy smile. Our 5th. I want it to be perfect. I saw something on your website. The Romantic Reconnect package. Does that one include the private dinner on the beach? It certainly does. Maria beamed, turning her screen slightly toward me. It's our most exclusive offer. Private car service, oceanfront suite, the Sunset Beach dinner. He is going to be absolutely stunned. Yes, I said, my eyes scanning the photos of the pristine white sand beach. I'm counting on it. I paid for the entire package up front, using my personal savings, my own credit card, the one he didn't see the statements for, the confirmation email, with its glossy photos of Willow Key and its elegant, serif font itinerary, arrived in my inbox before I had even reached my car. I drove to the print shop, the same one I had visited before, and printed the itinerary on their heaviest, most expensive cream-colored cardstock. It looked and felt like an invitation. A performance needs an audience. A trial requires witnesses. My next call was to my mother-in-law. Evelyn, hi, it's Ivy. Ivy, dear, how are you? Her voice was the usual melody, a high note of superficial warmth, underpinned by a bass note of constant, low-grade judgment. I'm wonderful, actually, I said, infusing my voice with a brightness I had been practicing. I was calling because I was hoping you, Charles and Tessa might be free for dinner this Friday night. I know it's a little last minute. Friday, I suppose we are. Is everything all right? Everything is perfect, I said, letting out a small, rehearsed laugh. It's just, with our anniversary this weekend, I wanted to do something special, and, well, I have an announcement. Some good news I want to share with the whole family, in person. There was a pause. I could hear the gears turning in her head. Good news. Her voice sharpened. The scent of potential gossip, or better yet, a long-awaited pregnancy announcement was too much for her to resist. You'll have to wait and see on Friday, I said, my voice playful. But please, it would mean the world to me if you were all here. 7 p.m. We wouldn't miss it, dear, she said. I hung up and, to secure the hook, sent a follow-up text. P.S. I'm especially excited to show you something I've been working on. I really value your opinion. That was it. She would move heaven and earth to be there. The next few days were a blur of meticulous, cold preparation. I confirmed Connor's alibi one last time, a casual question over a dinner of takeout, which he seemed relieved I had suggested. I feel so bad I'm leaving you for our anniversary, I'd said, pushing noodles around my plate. Babe, I know, he said, not looking up from his phone. This Dallas summit is just mandatory. The whole fourth quarter projection hinges on it. We'll celebrate properly when I get back. I promise. Okay, I said, my voice soft. I understand. Work is work. He was so comfortable, so lazy in his deceit. He didn't even notice that I didn't offer to pack his bag this time. On Friday, I took the day off work. I went to the grocery store and bought the best of everything. The most expensive cut of beef, the freshest rosemary, the imported, handcrafted dark chocolate for the mousse. This would be my final performance as the good wife, and it would be flawless. I set the table with Evelyn's wedding china, the rose point pattern she only let me use under duress. I polished every piece of the heavy, ornate silver until it reflected my face, distorted and cold. I created a centerpiece that was, even by my standards, too much a lush, over-the-top explosion of white lilies and eucalyptus. I was performing trying too hard, so perfectly. They wouldn't see the truth underneath it. I prepared the props. I took the Harbor Line Travel Loft itinerary, the one for Willow Key, and folded it neatly. I placed it inside the heavy cream-colored envelope. I tied the dark green satin ribbon, the one I had saved from a Christmas gift, into a perfect, elaborate bow. This was the Good Ivy envelope. Then I took the third printed copy of his betrayal, the Skynest itinerary to Cabo, the one bearing Sabrina Hale's name, the bank statement, the confirmation of their couple's serenity package at the Mar Azul Suites. I folded those pages and slid them into the plain, white, business-sized envelope. This was the true Ivy envelope. I practiced in the bathroom mirror, not what I would say, but how I would be. I practiced a look of mild, innocent confusion. I practiced a calm, steady gaze. I would not cry. I would not scream. Lila's voice echoed in my head. The second you yell, you lose. You become the hysterical, crazy wife. The person who stays calm holds all the power. I knew my audience. I knew I couldn't just throw the white envelope on the table. That would be an attack. And I would be the villain. I had to wait. I had to let them provide the opening. Lila had called it, letting him expose himself. I knew, with absolute certainty, that Tessa's acidic tongue or Connor's own careless arrogance would provide the cue. They would hand me the knife, and I would simply turn it. I stood in my perfect dining room, the candles lit, the wine decanted. I was no longer the woman suspected of not being good enough. I was the woman who was about to become the sole arbiter of truth in this family. The bell rang. My guests had arrived. The show was about to begin. The dessert plates were cleared. The coffee was poured. Aunt Judith was leaning forward so far she was practically in the centerpiece, her entire body rigid with anticipation. "Well, Ivy," Evelyn said, dabbing her lips with a linen napkin. "You've been holding us in suspense all night. Good news." I looked around the table, at Charles, smug and satisfied, at Tessa, bored and restless, at Evelyn, politely demanding, and finally, at Connor. He smiled, giving me a small, indulgent nod, as if to say, "Go on, sweetheart. Do your little show." "You're right," I said, my voice resonating with a practiced, joyful tremor. "As you all know, this weekend is our 5th anniversary. 5 years. Goodness," Evelyn said, placing a hand on Connor's arm. "I remember the wedding like it was yesterday." "So," I continued, "I wanted to do something really special for Connor, for us." I stood up, retrieved the 2 envelopes from the sideboard where I'd hidden them, and walked over to my husband. I held the first one, the heavy cream-colored one, with the perfect green ribbon, and placed it in front of him. "Happy anniversary, Connor," I said. A chorus of "ohs" went up around the table. "Ivy, darling." Evelyn beamed, her eyes shining. "You are just the most thoughtful girl. Look at that. Charles, isn't she thoughtful?" "Very nice, very nice," Charles rumbled, impressed by the sheer quality of the cardstock. Connor looked genuinely pleased, his movie star smile in full effect. He was the center of attention again. The celebrated husband. He made a show of untying the ribbon, relishing the moment. He slid his finger under the flap and pulled out the thick, glossy itinerary from Harborline Travel Loft. His eyes scanned the first line. Willow Key Resort. He read the second. Romantic Reconnect Package. His smile faltered. Just a fraction. He was confused. He looked up at me, his eyes asking a question. I just smiled back. A bright, encouraging smile. "Keep reading." He looked back down. He read the flight details. His name. Connor Cole. And my name. Ivy Gonzalez. And then, he read the dates. Departure November 14th. Return November 17th. The blood drained from his face. I watched the color literally recede, from his forehead down to his neck, leaving behind a waxy, pale sheen. He didn't look at me. He looked at his plate. The hand holding the itinerary was trembling. "What is it, son?" Charles asked, his voice booming in the quiet room. "Where's she sending you Hawaii?" Connor swallowed. He tried to muster the smile again, but it came out as a sick, painful grimace. He let the paper fall to the table. "Ivy," he said, and his voice was a strained whisper. This is amazing. But, God, this is terrible." He looked around the table, putting on a mask of profound disappointment. "You guys, I can't accept this." Evelyn's smile vanished. "What do you mean? You can't accept it?" My trip," Connor said, rubbing his forehead as if struck by a sudden, awful migraine. "The Dallas Sales Summit. It's this weekend. The same weekend. November 14th. I can't believe the timing. Ivy, honey, I'm so sorry. I told you I was going to Dallas." He looked at me, his eyes pleading, but they weren't pleading for forgiveness. They were pleading for me to play along, to be the disappointed but understanding wife, to rescue him in front of his family. This was it. The cue, the lie, delivered so perfectly, so tragically, for his audience. I let the silence hang. Just a second too long. I let the table absorb his performance. Evelyn looked crushed. Charles looked annoyed. Tessa looked like she was about to laugh. I reached for the second envelope, the plain, white, business-sized one. "Oh, Connor," I said, my voice a symphony of relief. "You're right. I completely forgot about Dallas." I slid the white envelope across the table, the sharp plastic sound of it scraping the linen. It came to a rest right next to the beautiful cream itinerary. "I am so silly," I said, my smile unwavering. "I actually found this other confirmation. It must be the real one, the one for your actual trip. I guess I got them mixed up. This must be the one for Dallas." He didn't touch it. He stared at the white envelope as if it were a landmine. His eyes darted to mine, and in them, I saw it, the pure, cold terror of a man who had just realized the trap had sprung. "Well, open it," Tessa said, annoyed by the drama. My God, what is this? The slowest reveal in history. His hands were shaking so much now, he couldn't pick it up. "It's okay, honey," I said, my voice soft, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I can help." I picked up the envelope, tore the flap, and pulled the single-page printout from inside. I didn't unfold it. I just looked at the logo, visible at the top. "Oh, that's funny," I said, feigning confusion. "This one isn't American Airlines. It says, Skynest Travel." I unfolded the paper, revealing the full itinerary, and placed it on the table in front of him. Connor's face was no longer pale. It was sheet white. He saw the name, right there, under his. Passenger 2 Sabrina Hale. He saw the destination. Cabo Real Marina. Not Dallas. He saw the booking notes. Romantic getaway. Tessa, impatient, leaned over, her eyes scanning the page. Sabrina Hale. Who's Sabrina Hale? And why are you going to Cabo? I thought you said. Tessa, I said, and my voice cut through the air, sharp and cold, silencing her. Let Connor explain. He's the one who booked it. Charles put his coffee cup down with a heavy thud. Connor, what is she talking about? Who is Sabrina Hale? It's not what it looks like, Connor stammered, his eyes wide, frantic. He was looking at his father, then his mother, pleading. It's a work trip. An extension, Sabrina. Sabrina is from Major Accounts. She's meeting clients in Mexico. I was flying with her to help. Really? I asked, my voice still light, still curious. Because this confirmation says you booked the couple's Serenity package at the Mar Azul Suites for Saturday afternoon. Is that, for the clients, too? Evelyn made a small sound, a high-pitched, wounded animal noise in the back of her throat. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her son, her face a mask of horrified disbelief. It was one thing to cheat on his wife. It was another to lie to his mother. You lied, Charles said, his voice quiet, which was more terrifying than his boom. You stood here, in this house, and you lied. About Dallas. No, Dad. Connor was crumbling. The golden boy was shattering. It was a mistake. A one-time. I was going to cancel it. Ivy. I was going to cancel. I swear. I looked at him. The man I had loved. The man I had spent 5 years trying to impress. He was pathetic. He was small. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at him, and then I looked at the beautiful, untouched turkey on the table. I looked at the polished silver and the expensive china. I booked a trip to save our marriage, I said, my voice clear and steady in the dead, silent room. You booked one to bury it. No one moved. The silence was absolute, heavier than the uneaten food, thicker than the tension. The only sound was the quiet drip of a melting candle. The knife and fork on Connor's plate, forgotten, lay crossed, like the end of a story. The jury was in. The verdict was guilty. The scraping of a fork against a china plate was the loudest sound in the house. It was a violent, metallic shriek in the vacuum of the dining room. I was stacking Evelyn's wedding china, the rose point pattern, and I was not being careful. Tessa and Aunt Judith had evaporated, muttering something about a headache, their faces pale with the thrill of a scandal they couldn't wait to dissect. Charles had simply stood up, looked at his son with a disgust that was total, and said, "We are leaving." Evelyn had lingered. She followed me into the kitchen, her pearls clutched in her hand. "Ivy," she whispered, her eyes darting to the hallway as if Connor might hear. I am so sorry." "Sorry for what, Evelyn?" I asked, not looking at her, turning the faucet on full blast to rinse a plate. That you were put through this? That he was so public about his mistake? I had no idea. We had no idea he was this reckless. Reckless. Not cruel, not deceitful, not morally bankrupt. Reckless, as if he'd been caught speeding, not building a meticulous, month-long campaign to betray his wife. Even in this, his mother was already reframing, softening the blow, managing the narrative. "It wasn't reckless, Evelyn," I said, turning off the water. The silence of the kitchen was heavy. "It was deliberate." She had no answer for that. She just nodded, her lips pressed into a thin, unhappy line, and walked out the front door, leaving me alone with the ruins of my perfect dinner. I finished the dishes. I put the untouched turkey into a container. I put the wine glasses in the dishwasher. I was not a wife in mourning. I was a caterer cleaning up after a disastrous event. When I finally walked into our bedroom, he was there. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, the picture of a man in despair. The Connor I knew, the golden boy, had vanished. This man was small, pale, and terrified. "Ivy," he said, his voice muffled. He looked up, and his eyes were red. "Ivy, please, you have to listen to me." I didn't say anything. I just walked to my dresser and started taking off my jewelry, the earrings, the necklace, placing them in the velvet-lined box next to the now empty space where the envelopes had been. "It wasn't what you think," he pleaded, standing up, taking a step toward me. I flinched, and he stopped. "Okay, it was what you think, but it's not. It wasn't real." "What wasn't real?" "Connor," I asked, my voice flat. "The plane tickets, the hotel reservation, the couple's serenity package." "I was going to cancel it," he said, his voice rising in desperation. "I swear to God, Ivy, I got in too deep. She's just this girl from work. It was a stupid flirtation, and it went too far. It was a mistake. One time. It doesn't mean anything." I turned to look at him. I truly looked at him, the man I had promised to love, and I felt nothing. Just a cold, analytical curiosity. "A mistake," I repeated. "You booked a romantic getaway, complete with champagne and side-by-side massages. 2 months in advance, you created a fake PowerPoint presentation for a fake sales summit in a fake city to cover your tracks. You preemptively lied to me, to your family, to your boss. You didn't just make a mistake, Connor. You built one. You engineered it. You funded it. You put a down payment on it." His face crumpled. The lies weren't working. "Ivy, please, what do you want me to say?" "I don't want you to say anything," I said. "I want you to listen. You are not to contact Sabrina Hale. You are not to send one text, one email, one carrier pigeon. You are not to warn her." "But my job." "I don't care about your job," I said, my voice as cold as the ice in my veins. "You are not to cancel that flight. You are not to cancel that hotel. You will not delete a single email or text message from your phone or your computer. It's too late for that. Anyway." "What do you mean?" I have copies," I said. "I have printed, notarized, and digitally backed up copies of everything. The bank statements, the hotel folios, the airline confirmations, the ones you booked, and the ones that were refunded. All of them." His face went from panicked to utterly, hopelessly lost. He had no moves left. I walked to the walk-in closet. He followed me with his eyes. "What? What are you doing? Are you leaving?" I reached up to the top shelf and pulled down my small, hard-shell carry-on suitcase, the black one, the one I used for work trips. I set it on the bed between us and unzipped it. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "I don't know what I'm doing. Connor," I said, opening a dresser drawer and taking out a stack of t-shirts. "I don't know if I'm leaving you, or if I'm just leaving this room, but I know this is over. The way we were, that's over. That died tonight. You killed it. No, Ivy, don't say that." He reached for me, and I pulled away. "Stop. Here is what is going to happen," I said, and the authority in my voice made him freeze. "First, you are going to agree, right now, to couples therapy, starting Monday, no excuses." He nodded, fast. "Yes, of course, anything." "Second," I continued, "you are going to give me full, unrestricted, administrator-level access to every financial account you have, your personal checking, your credit cards, your stocks, your retirement. I want to see every dollar you have spent for the last 2 years. I'm not your wife anymore, Connor. I'm your auditor." He hesitated. "Ivy, that's non-negotiable," I said. He swallowed his pride. The fear of his father's wrath clearly greater than the fear of my own. "Okay, Okay. And third, I said, you are not going to hide. You are not going to run. You are not going to go on a drive. You are going to stay here, in this house, and you are going to face the consequences. When your father calls tomorrow, and he will, you will answer. When your mother calls, weeping, you will answer. You will not make me the bad guy. You will not make me the hysterical wife who flew off the handle. You will own every single, disgusting piece of this. You will tell them the truth, the whole truth. He nodded again. A broken, jerky movement. I will. I promise. I'll do anything. Ivy, just don't leave. I'm not making any promises, I said. I zipped the empty suitcase and left it on the bed. A prop, a threat, a promise of my own. I'm sleeping in the guest room. I left him standing there, a ghost in our bedroom, and walked to the guest room. I locked the door. I sat in the dark for a long time. Then, I opened my laptop. I composed a new email. I attached the zip file that contained every PDF, every screenshot, every bank statement. I sent it to Lila Moore. The subject line was one word: insurance. I lay down on the cold, unfamiliar sheets. The pain was there, a deep, heavy ache in my chest. But the pain was no longer the driver. It was just fuel. I thought about the night, the dinner, Connor's shattered face, Evelyn's pathetic, self-serving apology. I had done it. I had exposed him. But as I lay there, a new thought began to form. It wasn't enough. He was embarrassed. Yes, his father was angry. His mother was horrified. But they were his family. They would forgive him. It would take time, but he was their golden boy. They would find a way to reframe this. They would blame Sabrina. They would blame his recklessness. They would, eventually, find a way to blame me for the public. Cruel way I had exposed him. I would become the cold-hearted bitch who shamed him, and he would become the fallen man they had to rally around and save. He still had a path back. He still had an escape. I needed a place where he couldn't escape, a place where I'm sorry didn't work, a place where his charm and his parents' influence meant nothing, a place with security cameras, federal regulations, and non-refundable fees. I needed a stage where he couldn't just walk away. I sat up. I turned on the lamp. My mind was racing. The plan unfolding with perfect, cold clarity. He still had his ticket to Cabo. He was terrified. Yes, but he was also stupid, and he had a girlfriend waiting for him. He would be tempted to just run, to escape the shame. I smiled in the dark. The dinner was just the opening act, the finale. The finale would be at the airport. I would still be going on a trip on November 14th. I had a ticket to Willow Key. After all, I deserved a vacation, but not with him, and not before I'd seen the final curtain fall. The week that followed was a performance in controlled silence. I slept in the guest room. Connor slept in the master. We were two ghosts haunting the same house, passing in the hallway with the polite, empty nods of strangers in a hotel. He was a wreck. He tried, in his pathetic, predictable way, to fix it. On Monday, a bouquet of 24 red roses arrived. The card read, "I'm so sorry. Ivy, please let's talk. I love you." I took the roses, dumped them in the compost bin, and put the vase in the recycling. On Tuesday, he left a handwritten note on the guest room door, a long, rambling, self-serving apology about how he felt lost, and Sabrina took advantage of his confusion. I used the back of the note to write my grocery list. He thought my silence was shock. He mistook my coldness for grief, a wound so deep I couldn't speak. He thought I was broken. He had no idea I was simply busy. On Saturday morning, 1 week before the flight, I sat in the guest room with my laptop and a fresh cup of coffee. The first order of business, the Skynest travel account. I didn't need to guess his password. He was an idiot. He used the same password for everything, a combination of his college mascot and the year he won his top salesman award. I logged in, and there it was, his trip. Cabo Real Marina. I clicked on the payment details, and a new, purer, More exquisite rage flooded my system. He hadn't just used our joint credit card, he had paid for the entire flight package for both himself and Sabrina Hale. Using our accumulated rewards miles, our miles, the miles I had accrued, the ones I had painstakingly saved from all my work travel for Alder Finch, the ones I had been hoarding for 5 years, dreaming of a real vacation, the ones I had earmarked for a trip to Italy. Maybe Greece. He had stolen them. He had stolen my work, my miles, to take his mistress to Mexico. The original plan to simply expose him suddenly felt small. He didn't just deserve public humiliation, he deserved to pay. I clicked on Manage Booking. The option was there, Change Passenger Details. I clicked it. Passenger 2, Sabrina Hale. I highlighted her name. My hand was as steady as a surgeon's. I hit the backspace key. Her name, her entire existence on this itinerary, was gone. The cursor blinked in the empty box. Waiting. I thought about putting Lila's name. That would be funny. But it wouldn't be. Perfect. There was only one name that would create the precise, devastating, inescapable conclusion I required. I typed it in. Passenger 2, EVELYNCOLE. I selected her date of birth, which I knew by heart from the 5 years of birthday cakes I had baked her. I entered her passport number, which I had memorized from the time I'd booked their family trip to Florida 2 Christmases ago. The system charged me a $100 change fee. I paid it with a flourish, using the joint card. It was the best $100 I had ever spent. A new confirmation popped up. Your booking is updated. Connor Cole, Evelyn Cole, I giggled. An actual, out loud, dark, and deeply satisfying giggle. Step 2. I went to the Harborline Traveloft website. I looked at my own booking, the one to Willow Key. It was beautiful, but it was contaminated. It was tied to this whole ugly affair. I canceled it. I ate the $200 cancellation fee. It didn't matter. Then, I booked a new flight to Willow Key Resort for the same day, November 14th, but I booked it on a different airline, from a different airport, and it left at 10 a.m., 3 full hours after Connor and his mother's flight to Cabo was scheduled to depart. My role in this drama would be over, and I would be on my way to a beach while they were still dealing with the shrapnel. Step 3. The audience. I composed a new email. I sent it to Charles and Evelyn Cole. Subject, thinking of you both. Dearest Evelyn and Charles, I wanted to thank you both for coming the other night. I know it was intense. Connor and I have had a very long, very difficult week. We have talked more than we have in years. We have decided to go to therapy, and he has been incredibly remorseful. He still has his trip this upcoming weekend, and after a lot of discussion, we've decided that I'm going to go with him to the airport. He's going to go, and we're going to use the time as a small separation to think, but it feels like a new beginning. I know this is a small step, but it feels like a hopeful one. We'll be heading to the airport around 7 a.m. on Friday for his flight. Just wanted to share the update. We love you both. All my best. Ivy. I hit send. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, full of the therapeutic buzzwords they would want to hear. Remorseful. Therapy. Hopeful. Evelyn would read it and believe her prayers had been answered, that the good Ivy had done her job and was forgiving her golden boy. They would be so relieved, so happy to see things returning to normal. They would never suspect a thing. Step 4. Protecting my assets. I printed the new, updated itinerary. Connor Cole, Evelyn Cole. I printed the receipt for the $100 change fee. I placed these new documents into a fresh, stiff, manila envelope and put it in my briefcase, alongside the original evidence. If Connor had somehow managed to delete his emails in a fit of panicked competence, it wouldn't matter. I was the girl who always brought hard copies. Step 5. The final cut. I picked up my personal cell phone and dialed a number I had found on the internet. Colton Dynamics, Human Resources. This is Brenda. I pitched my voice lower, adding a gravelly, disgruntled edge. Hi, I need to make an anonymous report, I said. sounding like a world-weary trucker. "It's about one of your salesmen, Connor Cole." "I'm sorry. Who is this?" "I'm anonymous, but I'm a client. And I can tell you that Mr. Cole is using your company's name to plan personal, romantic travel. He's blocking off conference time for trips to Mexico with his girlfriend, who also works there, a Sabrina Hale. He's using company resources, company time, and lying on his reports. I don't know what kind of shop you're running over there, but it looks real bad. You should check his calendar for next Friday. A Dallas sales summit that doesn't exist. Makes you wonder what else he's faking." I hung up before she could say another word. I shut my laptop. My work was done. The last, final piece of the puzzle fell into place on Thursday afternoon, the day before the flight. I sent one last text to Evelyn. "Hi, Evelyn. So glad we're all feeling a bit better. One tiny, silly request. When you see us off tomorrow, could you do me a favor and bring your passport? I have a small surprise. I'm trying to coordinate, and it might just be easier if you have it. It's a long shot, but just in case. See you in the morning, XO Ivy." The trap was set. The bait was taken. The cameras, the security checkpoints, the non-refundable tickets, and the witnesses were all in place. All I had to do was show up and watch. Friday morning, November 14th. The airport terminal was bright, loud, and unforgiving. I arrived at exactly 7:15 a.m., pulling my own small suitcase. I had already checked in for my own flight online. I was just here for the show. I spotted him immediately at the Skynest curb check-in. He was alone, vibrating with a toxic mix of anxiety and sleaze. He was checking his watch, then his phone, then scanning the line of arriving cars. He was looking for a blonde in resort wear. I assumed he had probably, in his cowardice, sent Sabrina a frantic, garbled text trying to cancel. But a woman about to go on a free trip to Cabo, paid for with someone else's miles, doesn't listen to a garbled text. She shows up. A black sedan pulled to the curb. Connor visibly tensed, stepping forward. This must be her. The door opened, and Evelyn Cole stepped out, looking radiant in a cream-colored linen pantsuit, pulling a small, expensive-looking roller bag. Connor froze. His face, which had been pale with nerves, went a new, interesting shade of gray. "Connor," she trilled, beaming at him. She rushed forward and grabbed his arm, completely oblivious to his catatonic state. "Oh, darling, I am just so touched. When Ivy texted me to bring my passport for a surprise, I thought, well, I didn't know what to think, but to take me with you to give your father some time. Oh, it's just the most thoughtful thing, you and Ivy, working things out. This is—" He just stared at her suitcase. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He knew, at that moment, that the ticket had been changed. But he couldn't say, "Where is Sabrina?" in front of his mother. This was my cue. I walked up, my own suitcase rolling silently behind me. "Good morning, Evelyn. Good morning, Connor," I said, my voice as bright and pleasant as the fluorescent lights. "I'm so glad everyone is here on time." "Ivy," she gushed, turning to hug me. This is just wonderful. Truly. You two, I am just so proud." Connor's eyes found mine over his mother's shoulder. They were filled with a black, impotent rage. "Well, we better check in," I said cheerfully. "The flight board's in 40 minutes. We walked inside. A bizarre, tense little parade, the happy mother, the apoplectic husband, and the smiling executioner. We got to the Skynest counter. The agent, a young man with a name tag that read Kevin, smiled. "Good morning. Where are we flying today?" "Cabo Real Marina," Connor said, his voice a low growl. He slapped his passport on the counter. "You know," I said, stepping forward, placing my hand gently on the counter, "I am so worried I made a mistake with this booking. Kevin, I was helping manage it, and I just have this awful feeling. Could you please just pull it up and confirm the names for us? I need to see the names on the tickets." "No problem, ma'am," Kevin said, tapping. "Let's see. Skynest flight. Yes, to Cabo. Okay, I have the booking under Cole, Cole, 2 passengers. Evelyn, standing beside Connor, looked confused. To what? Ivy, aren't you? Kevin's printer whirred. He looked at his screen. Okay, I have passenger 1 Connor Cole. He looked at Connor and smiled. And passenger 2 Evelyn Cole. He looked at Evelyn and smiled. Oh, she said, her hand flying to her chest. Oh, my goodness. So it's just me and Connor. A mother-son trip. Oh, Connor, you are just full of surprises. Kevin kept tapping. He was new, or maybe he was just enjoying the drama. He spoke loudly, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged terminal. Well, it's a good thing we checked, I see the note. This booking was originally for a Sabrina Hale. But that name was changed. Let's see. 2 days ago by the primary account holder, Ms. Gonzalez. There was a $100 change fee, but it's all set now. So, just the 2 of you. The silence was deafening. The couple behind us in the line stopped talking. The skycap loading bags onto the belt paused. Everyone heard. Primary account holder, Sabrina Hale. Connor's composure, that golden boy slickness, finally cracked. He turned to me, his face mottled red, his voice a low, shaking hiss that was louder than a yell. Ivy, what did you do? Evelyn's smile was gone. It had slid off her face. She was looking at me, but she was seeing the dinner, the white envelope, the lie. Ivy, she whispered, her voice horrified. The dinner. That wasn't. This is. What's going on? Charles, his voice, that deep, authoritative boom, cut through the tension. He had, as I knew he would, decided to come see his reconciled children off. He was standing right behind us, his face a mask of parental pride, which was now rapidly curdling into confusion as he took in his wife's face, his son's rage, and my calm. I looked directly at Connor, ignoring everyone else. My voice was cold, calm, and perfectly clear. I did what you couldn't. Connor, I protected my assets. I took back my miles, and I gave the ticket to someone who actually deserved a vacation. What miles? What ticket? Charles demanded. And then, the finale. As if summoned by the devil himself, Connor's phone, which he had set on the counter, began to ring, a loud buzzing vibration. We all looked down. The screen lit up, a photo of the blonde from the company picnic, and the name Sabrina Hale. Connor stared at the phone. Evelyn stared at the phone. Charles stared at the phone. Kevin, the check-in agent, stared at the phone. Connor, Evelyn breathed, her voice a desperate plea. Don't. Answer it, son, Charles said, his voice hard. Answer the phone. You should answer that, Connor, I said. My voice was just loud enough for all of them to hear. She's probably wondering where you are. Why don't you put it on speakerphone so your mother and father can hear? 2. So we all know what the plan is. He was frozen. He couldn't yell at me. We were at a check-in counter. He couldn't run. His mother was on his ticket, and his father was behind him. He couldn't answer the phone. His mother was listening, and he couldn't not answer the phone. His mistress was waiting, and his father had given him a command. He was locked in a cage of his own making, in a federal building, surrounded by strangers. And I was the only one with the key. The ringing of Connor's phone was a screaming alarm in the morgue-like silence of the check-in area. Sabrina Hale's smiling face, a digital ghost, beamed from the screen. Connor looked at it, his hand hovering over the device, his body frozen in a rictus of pure panic. I didn't wait for him to answer. I reached into my briefcase, the one I had placed so deliberately on my suitcase, and I pulled out the manila envelope, the one with the new evidence. I didn't hand it to Connor. His opinion no longer mattered. I stepped past him, my shoes clicking on the polished terrazzo floor, and held the envelope out to Evelyn. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and confusion. Her hand, the one that wasn't clutching her pearls, was trembling. She took the envelope from me as if I were handing her a live explosive. "Ivy," Charles said, his voice a low warning. "This is not the place." "It's the only place," I said, my voice calm. "This is the place he chose." Evelyn, with shaking fingers, opened the clasp. She pulled out the contents. She saw the first page, the original Skynest itinerary. She saw passenger to Sabrina Hale. She saw the next page, the confirmation for the couple's Serenity package at the Mar Azul Suites, the one that detailed the side-by-side massages and the champagne. Then she saw the final page, the credit card receipt for the $100 change fee, paid by Ivy Gonzalez, primary account holder. The story, in 3 neat, itemized pages. She didn't just see the betrayal. She saw the calculation. She saw my calculation. She understood, in that instant, that I had known for days, that the dinner, the reconciliation email, her son's public humiliation, it was all a script, and I was the director. Her face, which had been pale with shock, flushed a deep, angry red. She didn't look at me. She lifted her head, and her eyes, filled with a new, genuine, non-social disappointment, locked onto her son. "You were taking her," Evelyn said, her voice a low, vibrating whisper, holding the paper out. "With my name on the credit card, you were taking this girl on a romantic package instead of your wife." After 5 years, Connor flinched, as if she had slapped him. "Mom, it wasn't. Charles stepped forward. He put a heavy hand on Connor's shoulder, his fingers digging in. "Connor, over here, now." He didn't pull him far, just 5 feet away, to the side of the check-in counter, still perfectly visible, still tragically public. He didn't yell. He was a businessman closing a bad deal. "You are an idiot," Charles said, his voice a low, controlled rumble. "I can't believe I raised such a goddamned idiot. You didn't just betray your wife. You didn't just lie to your mother. You used the company name. You lied on your calendar, and you got caught. In public. You are an embarrassment to this family. You are an embarrassment to Colton Dynamics," while the golden boy was being stripped of his title. I turned away. Their family drama was no longer my concern. I had a flight to catch. I stepped to the adjacent, empty check-in counter for Harborline Travel Loft. "Excuse me," I said to the agent there. "I'm checked in online. I just need to drop my bag. Flight to Willow Key." I put my boarding pass on the counter. "Ivy," Connor said. His voice cracked. He had turned from his father, his face a mask of desperation. "Ivy, don't. Please, we can fix this." I looked at him, truly looked at him, one last time. He wasn't a monster. He was just weak, a charming, weak, selfish boy who had finally run out of charm. "No, Connor," I said. "We can't fix it. I'm still going on a vacation. I earned one. Just not with you." I turned back to him, the boarding pass in my hand. "You chose your destination," I said, my voice clear, a final bell tolling. "I've chosen mine." Connor, a new voice, high, breathless, and confused. We all turned. There she was, Sabrina Hale. She had, in a final act of perfect tragicomedy, shown up. She was dressed in a bright yellow sundress, wearing sandals, her blonde hair in a messy bun. She was pulling a small, white, very much for vacation roller bag. She had been waiting at the curb, had seen us all, and had finally run over, her face a mask of confusion. "Connor." "What's going on?" she panted, her eyes wide. "You said you were—" "Oh." Her voice died. She finally registered the scene. She saw Connor, looking like a man at his own execution. She saw Charles, his face like thunder, and she saw Evelyn, standing there, holding the printout of her own name, her face twisted in a mask of pure, aristocratic disgust. Sabrina just stopped. Her eyes darted between Evelyn and me. I didn't need to say a word to her. I wasn't in a competition with her. She hadn't won a prize. She had just picked up a defective product. But I'm only human. I looked at her, my gaze as cold and flat as a winter lake. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you for showing me what his price was." Her face went blank with confusion. "Sir Kevin," the Skynest agent, piped up, his voice nervous but firm. He clearly wanted this over. "Sir, I still have a reservation for 2, but a ticket for 1. Mr. Cole, Ms. Cole is the only confirmed passenger on this flight. I can't check you in. One of you is going to have to change your flight or buy a new ticket. The flight is in 40 minutes." And there it was, the final, perfect, inescapable trap. Connor was standing in the middle of an airport terminal, his father to his right, his mistress to his left, and his mother on his ticket. He couldn't go. He couldn't stay. He couldn't speak. I picked up the handle of my suitcase. I gave a small, polite nod to Charles. I gave a final, pitying look to Evelyn. I didn't look at Connor. I turned, and I walked away. I walked past the chaos, past the ringing phone, past the whispering strangers, past the woman in the sundress who was just beginning to cry. I walked toward the security gate, the sound of my suitcase wheels a steady, rhythmic click on the floor. I left them there, a collapsed constellation, to deal with the mess of their golden boy. As I stepped onto the escalator, my bag in hand, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text from Lila. "HR has confirmed receipt of an anonymous tip. They are reviewing Mr. Cole's employment. Have a great vacation. You've earned it." I smiled. I put my phone away, and I went to the beach. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know your thoughts. So please comment below and let me know where in the world you're listening from. Make sure to subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories. Like this video. And if you really want to support the channel, smash that hype button to help this story be heard by more people.